Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into an absolutely captivating Hmong folktale. It's got everything: an orphan, a king in disguise, and a reward that is just beyond imagination. This is the story of Thao Yor.
So, let's just start with a question to get you thinking. Imagine your biggest break, your greatest reward, came from something you did without a second thought, an act of kindness you didn't even realize you were performing. Well, that's exactly where our story begins.
Okay, let's get right into it. The story kicks off with two people from completely different worlds. I mean, you couldn't imagine two more opposite lives, and their paths are about to cross in the most unexpected way, right there on the banks of the Mekong River.
So on one side, you've got Thao Yor. He's a poor orphan, totally alone, living in a run-down shack. On the other side, we have Naga King. He's the mighty Naga King, but well, after maybe a little too much to drink, he's found himself stranded on the riverbank, disguised as a giant log.
This is where it all happens. Thao Yor is out gathering firewood and spots this huge log. All he's thinking is, wow, this could get me a lot of rice. So he uses every ounce of his strength, hauls it up on the shore, and has absolutely no idea he just saved a king. He leaves it to dry, and a few days later, poof, it's gone.
All right, now this is where the story takes a really interesting turn. We leave that humble riverbank and dive deep underwater into the incredible, magnificent palace of the Naga King. The king is back home, safe and sound, and he is determined to repay this huge debt. So he calls his 7 daughters together and asks them this pretty extraordinary question. One by one, the older daughters are like, no way, until finally, it's the youngest daughter's turn to answer.
And of course, it's the youngest, most devoted daughter, Nang who volunteers. Her father gives her a magical dog with these deep red eyes to be her guide, and she sets off on this epic quest. I mean, she travels for over 3 months, even turns down a proposal from a wealthy city ruler because the dog just keeps going, right up to the door of the most miserable 5-plank hut you can imagine. So Thao Yor is, not exactly looking his best, but Nang knows she's found the right person. They share a simple meal, and then she reveals who she really is. And then, with her magic, she bathes him, and boom, he's a handsome young man. Then she turns to his shack, and boom, it's a magnificent house. His whole life changes, just like that.
But here's the thing about a sudden, magical change in fortune like this. It doesn't go unnoticed. And pretty soon, word of Thao Yor's incredible new wife and his amazing new house reaches a very powerful and very greedy man.
Let's meet our bad guy, Thao Yor. He's the local city king, and his whole deal is just burning envy. The second he hears about Thao Yor's new life, he wants it, especially his beautiful wife, Nang, and he decides he is going to take it all for himself. So Thao Yor pays a visit to Thao Yor's new place, and he's served this magical food and drink that literally never runs out. Now, you'd think this incredible hospitality would win him over, right? Nope, it does the exact opposite. It just pours gasoline on his envy, and he starts plotting right then and there. Thao Yor is consumed by this idea that he has to get rid of this former orphan. So he comes up with a series of what he thinks are impossible tasks. Each one is basically a death sentence in disguise.
So the king lays down the law. First, go get me a live bird that's guarded by tiger spirits. Easy, right? Second, go catch some fish that are protected by 9 dragons. And for the grand finale, a deadly race. Thao Yor is just sitting back, completely convinced there's no way Thao Yor is coming back alive.
But Thao Yor has made a massive miscalculation. See, Thao Yor manages to complete these impossible tasks, and it's because his wife, Nang lets him in on a little secret. Those terrifying monsters? They're basically her in-laws. The tiger spirits are related to her mom, and the dragons, well, they're related to her dad.
And here's the most ironic part. Every single attempt the king makes to destroy Thao Yor just ends up making him stronger. After he completes the first 2 tasks, his new relatives, the tiger family and the dragon family, are so impressed they each give him one of their daughters as a wife. So now Thao Yor has 3 magical wives and a network of some seriously powerful allies.
At this point, Thao Yor is absolutely furious. He's frustrated, his plans are in shambles, and Thao Yor is not only alive but thriving. So he makes one final desperate move, a deadly race. Winner takes the kingdom, and the loser dies. So for this final showdown, Thao Yor's second wife, the tiger's daughter, gives him a magical vest.
It's got a warm side and a cold side. He uses the warm side to cross a freezing ice mountain, and all of Phaya Muong's men just freeze to death. Then he flips the vest to the cold side and runs straight through a volcano, where Phaya Muong himself gets burned alive.
And with his last breath, Phaya Muong doesn't ask for forgiveness. No, instead, he utters this curse against himself. He perfectly sums up his own downfall, admitting his greed and envy were the very things that led to his death. And with the tyrant finally gone, do the people of the city mourn? Not a chance. They celebrate. They welcome the kind-hearted Thao Yor as their new rightful king.
So after that incredible journey, from a 5-plank hut to a king's throne, from total nobody to beloved ruler, what's the big lesson here? What are we supposed to take away from all this?
Well, this story just perfectly illustrates so many timeless truths. First, it shows us that even a small, unnoticed act of kindness can come back to you in the most amazing ways. It's also a huge warning that envy and greed are poisons that only ever destroy the person who feels them. It reminds us that our real strength isn't just in ourselves, but in our family and our connections. And maybe most importantly, it proves that it doesn't matter where you start in life, your beginning does not have to be your end.
And that really just leaves us with one last thing to think about. In our world today, which so often rewards aggression and status, how can we apply the lessons from Thao Yor's simple, unknowing kindness to our own lives? What are the logs waiting for us on our own riverbanks?